What's up, everybody? Tsunami Mats here, and today I have a Zefra Endymion deck profile for you guys. This is the deck list that I took to Plat 1, and I think the deck is really strong. The deck can set up anywhere from 2 to 5 negates, just depending on the hand that you draw. And all of those combos range anywhere from 1.5 card combos to 3 card combos. So yeah, let's get into it. For this deck, I'm running 8 hand traps. I'm running 2 Ciphering Gear Gamma, 3 Max C, and 3 Ash. Max C and Ash really are just standard hand traps. Max C is just really strong going second against any deck that special summons, even Eldritch. You can chain it to a Sanguine, and against like trap-based decks, if you can get one single draw off of Max C, I think it's enough. If you can treat it as an upstart goblin. But for every other deck like Drytron, it makes them pass. Ash doubles as a Called by the Grave because it can negate your opponent's Max C. And Gamma also acts as a Called by the Grave. So it can both act as a defensive card and an offensive card. So if you draw it off Max C, it's basically a Solemn Strike on legs. But since every single card in your deck activates as a spell, you can essentially use it as a Called by the Grave because in order for them to Max C, you have to have scales. They're not going to shotgun Max C. They can shotgun Max C, but if they shotgun Max C, then they're being threatened by a Ciphering Gear Gamma. Also, in order for them to Max C you, because you can't Max C in response to a Pendulum Summon, in order for them to Max C you, you have to play scales down. Then they're going to Max C you. But you still have no monsters on board, so you can still Gamma them. And every single other card is ashable, so Gamma really makes it strong, because all of the cards that are ashable are cards that go into the spell trap zone. So essentially you don't really have to commit any monsters to get ashed. So I just think Gamma is incredibly strong in this deck, and I don't think Call by the Grave is necessary by any means, because defensively speaking, you can't use your Call by the Grave to fuel your Servant. You can use it as a defensive card, but you can't even Pendulum Summon it out. And you would ask the same question, like, why would you run Max C, if that's your logic? Max C is just insanely broken of a card. I feel like it should be run at 3 for every single deck. So that's the logic behind running Max C at 3. So yeah, the hand trap lineup is 8 cards, 8 hand traps. I think it's pretty solid in a 44 card deck. Then for your Endymion lineup, I'm running 3 Servant of Endymions, maxing it out, and 3 Spell Power Mastery. You just want to see this in your opening hand all the time. If you see Servant of Endymion with an Oracle of Zefra, you're set. You can set up Jackal King, or Servant of Endymion and Zefra Providence. You can set up Jackal King before your Pendulum Summon, and you can do your full entire combo. Set up 5 negates with just Servant and Zefra Providence. For the Zefra lineup, we're running 1 Terraforming. This is basically another copy of Oracle of Zefra. 3 Oracle of Zefras, and 2 Zefrath, and 3 Zefra Providence. So essentially you're running 9 copies of Zefrath. So hopefully you'll see it in your opening hand. And not only that, Terraforming becomes an Oracle of Zefra, but Oracle of Zefra can search any Zefra monster. So if you need a monster to normal summon along with your Servant to make an Electromite, you're able to do that. You can just search one of the cards that you would have sent with Zefrath anyways and make Electromite. So for your Zefra lineup, you are running 1 Zefraxi, 1 Zefra Wendy, 1 Zefraxiton. This is just simply for popping back row. So Zefraxi makes another Zefra on the field when it's Pendulum Summoned or specialed from the main deck into a tuner. Zefra Wendy adds a Zefra card from your extra deck to your hand. And Zefraxiton pops or destroys a face-down card, a set card on your opponent's field, and 1 Zefra card on your field. So Zefraxiton is really good for playing into back row. Zefra Nui is the card that searches any Zefra spell trap or Yang Zing spell trap. So you can search, let's say you get Max Seed with Scales. you can actually search your 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing and just set it, and you'll have a counter trap for your opponent, at very least. And Zefrath. So Zefrath takes the scale of any Zefra extra deck, any Zefra pendulum monster that you send from your deck to your extra deck. So if you were to send Zefraxi, since it's a scale 1, Zefrath would also become a scale 1. If you send Zefrinu, you would send a scale 7, right? And Zefrath would become a scale 7. So since you have so many low scales, your Zefrath typically wants to become a high scale. So you're really only running one Zefraxi as a low scale, but this Zefraxi recycles itself, so you can potentially get it every single turn. This card could be run at 2, but I don't really think that's necessary. I think the lineup is fine. And then we're running the Darkworm package, so we're running 1 Supreme King Darkworm along with a Foolish Burial and a Dragon Shrine and a Destrudo and a Gate 0. So essentially what this does is this acts as a free special summon, but it also adds us a low scale. So we have even more low scales to pair with our Zefrath. Destrudo can be sent whenever we need a tuner. So the heart and soul of this deck is Crystron and Halqifibrax. So Crystron Halqifibrax allows us to climb into Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon. Aurorodon alone gets us Denglong, plus 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing, and a Sporelode Savage Dragon with a Zefrinu on board, and a Herald of the Arclight. So essentially, off of 1 Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon, you're able to end with a 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing, along with a Zefrinu in defense position, and a Borreload Savage Dragon, and a Herald of the Arclight. So 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing and Zefrinu together are able to search you a Zephyr Providence for the next turn as follow-up. So essentially, Zefrinu and 9 Pillars are able to get you a scale for next turn. So just Aurorodon alone allows you to set up 3 interruptions along with follow-up. So that is one of the very main reasons that this deck, I feel like, is very, very strong. And then for the traps, we are running Zephyr Divine Strike and 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. We're also running a Chronograph Sorcerer and Mermere. So Chronograph Sorcerer allows us to have Electromite as an extender. So if you notice, we're running Cyframe Gear Gamma. Unfortunately, we can't normal summon or set this, but if we do have Electromite and we have Cyframe Gear Gamma and our opponent did not hand trap us, then what we can do is we can send Chronograph Sorcerer and use its effect to special summon Cyframe Gear Gamma from our hand. So now that we have a tuner. We're also running 2 Jet Synchron and 2 Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line. So Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line allows us to chain block our Needle Fiber effect, our Halqifibrax effect. So if, say, you were to make Halqifibrax and they were to if they were to Ash it, they would not be able to Ash it because you would position your chains as Halqifibrax Chainlink 1 and Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line Chainlink 2. That way, they would not be able to respond directly to your Halqifibrax. However, if they Veiler you on your Halqifibrax, then your Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line will still summon out an O-Line token, and you can use that machine token and your Halqifibrax to still go into Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon. You would end on 1 less interruption, but it's still very, very strong play because they lose a card out of their hand. We're running 2 Jet Synchron because the 2 Jet Synchron allow us to make the Aurorodon combo a 1.5 card combo at the cost of 1 interruption. So Jet Synchron by itself is able to make Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon, have a second Jet Synchron Engrave, and have a Borreload Savage Dragon with a Zefrinu and a 9 Pillars with the Yang Zing setup. So we can get a scale for next turn, have a negation, have our Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon on the field for next turn to destroy a card, and we're going to add a scale off of Zefrinu. So it is very, very strong. For our extra deck, we're running 1 Formula Synchron. This allows us to draw a card off of Needle Fiber's quick effect. So if Needle Fiber stays on the field, we can use the effect to banish itself and Synchro Summon Formula Synchron. And then we can use Formula Synchron to quick effect Synchro into anything we need to. Typically, we make Boxia so that we can shuffle a card on your opponent's field back into the deck. Herald of the Arclight, this is part of the standard Auroradon combo. It also plays around Forbidden Droplets. So if we have Herald of the Arclight on the field and they Forbidden Droplets us, they're not allowed to send a monster from their hand to the graveyard because it would not fulfill the cost. Therefore, we can respond with Herald of the Arclight or another Borreload Savage Dragon on the field to negate the Forbidden Droplets. So it is very strong, the Floodgate effect. It also prevents any main deck to graveyard. So any card sent from the main deck to the graveyard would be banished instead. So they wouldn't be able to use the floating resource if, say, something hits the grave. Let's say something like Dogmatica Punishment. The cards would be banished instead. Denglong, First of the Yangzing. This card is pretty self-explanatory. It adds us a counter trap and it summons us a Yangzing from the deck. So it basically sets up a counter trap. That's essentially what it does. It sets up a negate. It also has another effect where you can send a Yangzing from your deck to the graveyard and it becomes that level, but that effect doesn't quite come up in this build. Metaphys Horus. This card, we typically run it for the Pendulum monster effect. So if you synchro summon this using a Pendulum monster as one of its non-tuners, then you can have your opponent choose one of the monsters they control and give it to you. So say they have a 6k unaffected by card effects monster, right? You can use Metaphys Horus to take control of it by getting rid of all their other monsters and summoning this, because this affects them. It tells them that they have to give you control of one of their monsters, rather than directly using an effect to affect the monster and take control. So you would be able to get over basically any card with this Metaphys Horus. Yazi is very good for playing second. So Yazi by itself going second, if you're able to pop one of their cards. So basically what it says is you can destroy a Yangzing you control and one card your opponent controls. Destroy them both, and then when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a worm from your deck in defense position. So typically this worm would be Mermer. Mermer says you can summon up to 3 tokens and reduce this level by however many tokens you summon. So the idea is to summon 3 tokens, then Mermer becomes level 4. Mermer and one of the tokens can be synchroed into a level 5, which would be Denglong. Denglong would add us 9 Pillars of the Yangzing. And then with Denglong and one of the other Mermer tokens, we can make Crystron Halqifibrax. Crystron Halqifibrax would then summon Jet Synchron, and then you would use the Jet Synchron and the last Mermer token to make Formula Synchron. You would draw a card, and then you would go into Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. And then from there, you would do the typical Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon combo. So just off of Mermer alone, you would set up 3 interruptions, plus a draw 1. Then you have Shooting Riser. This is just here for level modulation, in case you need to change the level and get into another one of your synchros. So because you're running Destrudo, you have very easy access to Shooting Riser. This makes Destrudo very, very good to level modulate anything. Boxia. This can be used in conjunction with Formula Synchron to shuffle a card on your opponent's field on their turn, so Formula Synchron and Crystron Halqifibrax, or you can do it on your turn and shuffle a card that they control. So it's very, very good non-destructive removal, and also it has a second effect where you can target a card you control and essentially monster reborn a card in your graveyard. So it also works as an extender. So a lot of the times I'm able to summon this card, shuffle a card back into the deck, use its effect to pop a scale or pop my Oracle of Zefra, and summon a level 4 or lower. Typically, it's Formula Synchron, Jet Synchron, Mega Phantom Beast O-Line, and I can continue comboing off with more synchros. 1 Borreload Savage Dragon. This is just the negation that I use to summon off of Denglong and a Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon token. It's just a very generic negation. Very, very powerful. Chaofeng. So when this card's summoned, based on the attribute of the Yangzing monsters that I used, it would stop your opponent from activating any effects of those monsters. So if I make this with a Denglong and a Zefraxi, then my opponent would be locked out of lights and earths. So it's a very, very powerful floodgate. Typically speaking, though, you don't make it that way. Typically speaking, the effect is when it's popped, you can add a tuner from your deck to your hand. So this would add as an extra interruption in conjunction with 9 Pillars of the Yangzing. So you can use 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing to negate an opponent's card, destroy this card, and then use its effect in the graveyard to add an Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring or a Psyframe Gear Gamma. Salamangrate Almirage. So this card is just simply a link 1. So the reason why I'm running this card over Link Kuriboh is you're rarely ever linking your Jet Synchron summoned off of Crystron Halki Fibrax. So this card is just more generic, say in case you draw double Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line. Then you can proceed to combo off, and it basically gives you a Link 3. Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, this is just standard in any Pendulum deck. This allows you to search, basically search any Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. So why would you not run that? Crystron Halki Fibrax, this is the heart and soul of this deck. This is what allows every single Synchro play in this deck to really be like so powerful. So why wouldn't you run it either? Mega Phantom Beast Auroradon, this makes most of your combos that much stronger and that much more consistent. This card's very, very strong. It lets you summon 3 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens, but for the rest of the turn you can't link summon, but that's not really that important because look how many Synchros you're running. And you can summon a Mega Phantom Beast monster from your deck, which is typically O-Line. 1 Apollousa, just generic monster negation. You're able to make this when you have just too many monsters on board. You use your Electromite and the rest of your monsters, and you can just make this. Or you can use it as a follow-up play. Overall, very, very strong. And then for your OTKs, and when you need to clear over problematic back row or monsters, you can summon Access Code Talker. You aren't really running any Link 3s here other than Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, so typically speaking, this card will not become 5300, but you really don't need that. If you need to deal with any problem cards, you have cards like Metaphys Horus, and this card, along with your Borreload Savage Dragon, which typically you end on it equipped with Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, which makes this card 4050 attack, plus a 4,300 access code is more than enough for game. So I've never run into a situation where I needed a 5,300 access code. So overall, this is the Zefra Endymion deck profile that I took to Plat 1. I think it's very, very solid. There are some minor changes that I might make. I've seen some builds with the DDD engine, but I think this build is very, very solid, and it's very, very fun. And if you need a refresher from the TCG, I highly recommend it. So yeah, that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tsunami out.